all the time. And then we later found out that they were taking the food and selling it so they can get money to get drugs. And you know what that did? That caused us to stop giving out food, because why should we be taking advantage of someone, being taken advantage by someone who's using it for drugs?
Right.
And what that did is hurt all the other people
All
that were in
that
need.
really needed it, yeah.
Okay? Those that really needed it. It got to the point where we wasn't getting too many of those, so we were just getting the drug addicts. I mean, man, it's sad. There was a day that the church was respected, but not today. There was a day that people would never do anything outside of disrespectful to the church or to church people. Now they don't care. They've lost the value of the church and church people. Amen. And when you lose the value of the church people no longer want to help you.
Right.
Amen. And that's sad. That's sad.
That's good.
Don't take advantage of your situation. Don't use people. Amen. Amen. And we got to be careful that we don't do that. We have to be careful that we don't take. I mean, I knew someone that every time they had a need, they would say, "Oh, don't worry, brother, God's going to meet my need." Then they'd let everybody know what their need was. Because eventually somebody's going to feel bad and give you something. And if that didn't work, they would just come and say, "Hey, brother, I'm in need. Can I get something?" I learned something from my pastor a long time ago, baby. He said when he had a need, he didn't tell anybody. He told God.
That's right.
He
Amen.
prayed, and God provided. He tells a story, Carl. This is Sandy's dad. Sandy will vouch for this. I think this was before Sandy was born, but I know you heard the story. They were living on West 65th at the time, and they had no food, nothing in the house, and he had a bunch of little kids to feed. He put a big bowl right in the middle of the table, and they sat at the table and they began to pray. And while he was praying, the door opened. The neighbor upstairs came down with a pot of soup and poured that soup in that bowl and went back upstairs.
Ah,
Amen. While they were praying. Amen. That's what God does.
yes, he
Amen.
does.
God will meet your needs. You don't have to go telling everybody. All you got to do is pray.
Yep.
Amen. So I've learned over the years, when I have a need, I mean, there's times I'll be like, Sherry, man, I just got these bills, but it's not with an ulterior motive.
Right.
I've said things to Dennis, well, if I had the money, I said, Dennis, I'm not saying that for you to, give me money. I'm just sharing, I'm venting, I'm just kind of, just releasing my frustrations here. But when I have a need, I don't tell people, because I know God can't perform a miracle if I tell everybody.
Right.
But if I pray and I seek God, God will provide.
That's right.
And you know what He does? Sometimes I have to wait, but He does.
Yes, he
Amen.
does.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm going to make it, but you know what? I made it. Every time. Amen. And so he goes on, he says, you've heard that it had been said, that you shall love thy neighbor and hate thy enemy. Somebody says, well, love your neighbor. And so the Pharisees would ask the question, who's my neighbor? Remember the scripture? They'd ask Jesus. The scribe said, who's my neighbor? And Jesus taught about the Good Samaritan, how the Good Samaritan helped the young man that was beaten, left on the side of the road for dead, when the priest and the Levites wouldn't do nothing. They went past him. He said, well, who do you think was the neighbor? And he said, well, I guess the one who helped. He didn't even want to say Samaritan because they hated the Samaritans. Amen. They'd be like, arch enemies reaching out. It would be like in the Civil War where the North would reach out to help a Southern soldier, or vice versa. You understand? And that would be like the Irish and the English reaching out and helping each other. They hated each other. Amen. And so we find that they would ask the question, well, who's my neighbor? The Pharisees would say, only my fellow Pharisees are neighbors. So I have to help them, I have to love them. But no one other than the Pharisees. The Jewish man would say, only my Jewish brothers are my neighbors, so I only help them. And Jesus said, no, the Samaritans whom you hate is your neighbor. Amen? And so what I'm trying to say to you is, the people that you might call your enemies, in the past they said it was okay to hate them. And Jesus come along and said, but I say unto you, love your enemies. Love your enemies. And you say, but it's hard for me to have emotional feelings for my enemies other than hate. And that's true. But love is not an emotion, love is a choice.
That's right.
When you see your enemy that's hungry, you feed him. When you see your enemy sick, you pray for them. Whatever their needs are, you try to meet them because God said to love them. I've shared the story before about how I had someone was always threatening me, calling me names, and mocking me, making fun of me, and you name it, there was problems. And they had a broken leg, and I took them a couple of bags of groceries. And they got angry because I found out where they lived. But I handed them the groceries and walked away. I don't know what effect that had on their lives, but I knew what effect it had on mine.
That's right. Amen.
God told me to love my enemies.
Yeah.
Amen? Did I want to feed them, baby? No, I wanted to bust them upside their head. But I overrode my emotions. Are you getting this, Dennis? We override our emotions and do acts of kindness.
That's right.
See, love is just an act of kindness.
That's right.
Amen? Can I say that again? Love is an act of kindness. That you're kind to people even though they know they don't deserve your kindness.
That's right.
Amen. And so we look and he says, to love your enemies, to bless them that curse you. They're cursing, they're putting a curse on you and you're blessing them. There was a story I've shared many times. I was upset with somebody and I was praying, God, I choose to, forgive me for hating them, I choose to love them. God, I'm sorry for cursing them, I choose to bless them. God, it was love, blessing, I forget what the other one was. I forgive me for having unforgiveness, I choose to forgive them. A few years later, somebody comes up and tells me how much money these people are making, and I knew in my mind they just got them a new car, they got them a new house, and they were living a nice life, and I find out they're making all this money, and I got frustrated. I told God, I said, God, this is not fair, man. I said, they got a nice house, I'm living in a dump, they got a new car, I'm driving a piece of junk, they got a nice car, I'm barely making enough money to pay the bills. I said, it's not fair. He said, well, didn't you ask me to bless him? And I had to repent. I said, I'm sorry, God, I did ask you to bless him. Bless him more. Bless him, bless him, bless him, bless him. Amen? And it was probably about a year or two later that God gave me the best job I ever had, where I'm making really good money. Amen? But I had to choose to bless my enemies. Amen? It's hard. I'm not sitting here telling you that it's something that can be done easy. No, it's a choice that you must force your emotions to, you must bring your emotions under control. And if you can't bring your emotions under control, then you'll never walk with Christ the way you're supposed to. Whew. I might have to say that again. If you cannot put your emotions under control, then you may never be able to walk with Christ the way He called you to walk.
Amen.
Amen. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. Pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Pray for them. And I'm not praying that, not praying that an anvil falls down and hits them in the head. You're praying blessings upon them. Amen. Praying salvation in their lives. You pray for them. And listen.